Okay, let's talk. Let's chat Fire Emblem because I
Yep.
actually gotta get off a little bit sooner. Apparently, the thing
Yeah.
I told you about, they called me, and obviously I didn't answer, so I probably want to call them back at some point in the next like half an hour. Um, let's talk Fire Emblem though,
Yep.
because your brothers finished the game. I'm guessing you're close.
I'm. I've completed. Last night I finished the last two paralogs. I'm 4 chapters from the end, so I'm in
Yeah,
the end game. I'm
there
in
you
the
go.
end
You're
game
in the end game.
basically.
I'm
So
like at chapter 12 because I played on stream, and I don't really. The only time I played off stream is if I do like a skirmish or something. But I'm gonna be honest. I don't think it's gonna play out much differently than what I've seen so far, outside of like the story maybe morphing a little bit. I don't think it's gonna. I don't think there's anything additional that I'm gonna get surprised at. I think I've been introduced to almost everything in the Somnial that I think is worth mentioning at this point. I said almost everything, not everything.
yeah, there's a couple new things that unlock in the Sol mark, which is what you're going into.
Yeah.
Um.
Okay. But I meant not just like the Somnial. Um, I feel like the gameplay is not might shift a little bit differently. There might be some new
Yeah.
things to
The
deal with, but
the rings you get in the like second half of the mid game, basically the point you're at, they're more they're like the first 6 rings you get are basically all just like damage go burr,
yeah,
and except for like Micaiah,
Makai
but like
doesn't.
she's also pretty easy. It's just like a utility ring. Like, yeah, you just get an extra healer. You just put it on somebody and they
Yeah,
can use stabs and they can heal from range when you engage, and then you sacrifice. The stuff in the rings in the second half are like, yeah, they're a little more, not all of them, but some of them are a little more like utility based, as opposed to just like, yeah, let me just equip this and just do big
and
damage.
just do big
Like,
damage. Yeah.
yeah.
Um. Yeah. I. Yeah, but at this point, I don't know how much is going to change for me to change my opinion.
No,
I really don't
don't.
think.
No,
I really
I
don't
don't
know.
think you're not gonna change your. That's the story. Like, there are some like okay scenes and somewhat interesting. Like, there are points where I'm like, yeah, okay, you tried, but at least for me, it was hard to get invested because the early game was so bad in terms of the story. Um,
Yep. And yeah, I guess yeah. But so I'm kind of ready to make my determination in this game, unless something drastically changes, which I don't think so. This isn't a game that's going to do that. I'm just
no,
it's not going to do
this
that.
game is not really surprising
This
in
is
any way.
this is one
The
of the
the
safest games I think I've ever
the
seen.
all the twists in the story I called from like the very beginning of the game. I
They're
was
just
like,
not
yep,
good either. There's a
yeah,
twist already. I'm like, this isn't a good twist. I don't find it interesting. And like, you could have guessed it pretty easily. And if
oh
I can
yeah,
guess it,
with
it's a
Veil,
bad twist.
with Veil, you
Yeah.
mean?
I was like,
Yeah,
oh, they're yeah, Veil's
yeah,
not what she
no,
appears,
I
obviously.
was like, yeah, no, she's again, okay. Spoiler alert for the mid game of Fire Emblem Engage if you're not there yet. But yeah, Veil being a bad guy, like I called that like off the bat too. I was like, yeah, this
Yeah, it
character's
was
gonna be a
like,
bad
no, there's
guy.
something going
Like
on.
like
This isn't what it appears, obviously. She's definitely not she's definitely not good. There's something going on here, and she's protecting you. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm still on the boat of like she's actually my boat is still that Lumera and the Fell Dragon were actually at some point together,
hmm,
and that's where you're born from both of them.
okay.
And if that's the case, I'm gonna be disappointed. I hope there's
Yeah,
something a little bit different there.
I'm not gonna say anything on
Good.
what that is. I don't want. I mean, unless you want me to spoil it for you.
I don't care. That's the thing. I don't care. There's no single part of this game I felt like I've cared. I've been just sitting back. Like, okay, let me give an example. Let me just give an example. This is going to contextualize how I feel about this game. I lost Etier in the retreat map. Here's what I
Yeah.
said. Oh, I lost a ranged unit, so now I can't take down Pegasus Knights so easily. You notice how I didn't say like, oh, she was my favorite character. Oh, I loved her. Or, oh, I loved how she interacted with these other characters. Notice how I didn't say that.
No.
My reaction was, oh man, now I gotta use a different bow user.
A different archer, yeah.
That's how I feel about this game. Like, I don't care.
Yeah,
I
your
don't care
units
about
are
a single character.
Your units are they're chess
Like,
pieces.
They're
not
chess
characters.
pieces, which is boring. Like, I like Fram, but Fram's like, I just do it because it's like a meme at this point for me. Like, my Fram is like
just has high strength and beats the crap out of
kind of
people.
beefy. So I'm like, okay, this is funny. Like, Fram's beefy. Like, I love it. It's like, but like, I don't necessarily have any attachment to Fram as a character.
I dumped Fram as quickly as I possibly could. I saw her C support, and then her C support between her and Clan, and her C support between her and Alir, and I'm like, I'm getting rid of this character as fast as possible. I hate this character so much.
I just like that every time she got levels, I was like, why do you keep using strength? What's going on? Yeah. Why are you so tanky? Why are you beefy? But like outside of that, there's no character I care about. I don't care about a single character. If they die, I'm just like, oh well, there you go. And that's the thing. Like with three houses, I kind of cared. So I was like, oh shit, like I don't want to lose any of these characters, like because I started getting attached to them.
Yeah, that's what they did in 3 houses.
Yeah, and that was why I was interested.
You pick your house and you get your 8 units, and you pretty much stick with those 8 units for the whole game. You get a few others like the teachers and a few other characters that like join throughout the time, but like you have your crew of 8 that you get from the beginning, and you don't want to lose any of them.
Right, you don't want to lose that team. And it was different because I was like, oh yeah, because I started to become connected to them. Because
this game just throws 3 new characters at you every single chapter. They're like,
I'm just
here,
like,
have another prince and their 2 retainers every single chapter.
And I'm just like, wow, this is so fucking boring. I'm sorry, I'm like very extreme on this, but I'm playing it on stream and I'm being positive. Like I felt like I've been as positive as possible outside of the retreat map, because like I said, I don't like retreat concepts in that kind of thing. Like I understand the story reason behind it. I get it completely. I just don't like it. But I'm like, God. I started skipping conversations.
The support conversations.
Yeah, I started skipping them. Not the supports necessarily. I just tuned out of those. I started skipping like when they were doing chapter scenes. I just started speeding ahead. And I was like, oh, whoops. But the thing is, I don't care. I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care anymore.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. You're not even halfway through the game, and you're like checked out of the story.
I'm checked out. I'm already checked out.
You just want to skip the story. And
I'm checked out. I don't care. I really don't. And I'm like, I'm sticking with it because I like the combat sequences where I'm like, okay, now I actually get to do all the gameplay, the tactics, the strategies parts. That part's great, and I love it.
So. Then the question goes back to, would you like me to spoil the story for you?
You can spoil it. I don't care. That's the thing. I don't give a shit. I really don't care.
Spoiler alert for more late game in Fire Emblem Engage, and I haven't finished it. I think there's a little more to it than this. So you learned about Vale. Vale is Fell Dragon's daughter.
Right.
But she's like a defect. She has a split personality. She has the evil side and the good side.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So when you interact with her in the early game, it's the good side. And Alir is Fell Dragon's child. Lumera isn't the mother, but Alir is the Fell Dragon's child.
Yep.
And during the last war, he like turned they haven't explained it yet, but he turned on the Fell Dragon and slayed the Fell Dragon, and then Lumera
Alir turned on the Fell Dragon.
Yeah, Alir turned on the Fell Dragon.
Yep.
Killed the Fell Dragon, but the Fell Dragon like wounded him badly in the process. So then Lumera took in Alir and transferred her divine dragon's powers to him or her.
Yeah, which she did say that
in the 1,000 years.
Yep, she said that.
Between, so which explains the blue and red hair. That's the reason Alir has full red hair and red eyes in the original version, like the evil.
Yeah, because you see a cutscene with Alir and it's all red.
Yeah,
there's a cutscene early on that's all red, which is why everyone said, "Oh, she's probably the daughter of the Fell Dragon."
Yeah,
I just figured Lumera was maybe.
That's a memory, not just. It's not a dream. It's a memory.
Yeah, it's a memory. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's
And then
insanely boring. Keep going.
and then I haven't gotten to this point yet, but I had it spoiled for me.
Yeah, sure.
Apparently, there's a little bit of time travel later
Oh,
on.
I'm done.
Where
Nope, I don't want to hear anymore. I'm done. No, I'm done. Nope, don't want to hear anymore. Now I'm done. I heard time travel. I'm out. Don't tell me anymore. I'm out already. I don't care anymore. Nope, don't tell me.
No, I want to tell you, the good Alir. So the Alir from the future goes back in time and meets like evil Alir, which is the catalyst for evil Alir turning good in the end. So it's like a fucking time loop basically. There's infinite timelines because every past Alir needs to meet future Alir, and every future Alir needs to go back in time and meet past Alir. So
yeah, I don't care anymore. What a dumb fucking story. What a stupid story. Okay, great. Well, the story's a 0 for me now. So.
Oh
thanks.
yeah, and
It's a
the
0.
the Fell Dragon's motivation apparently is apparently he was the first emblem ring user, and his emblem ring like stopped working or betrayed him at some point, so now he hates friendship and he just likes solitude, and the power of friendship needs to defeat the power of solitude. So
Wow. Okay, well, this is a 0. The story is a 0. That is the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard. I heard time travel, so I'm out. Oh my god, they're calling me again. I swear to god, they're calling me again. I might have to take
go ahead
the call.
go ahead and pick it up.
Yeah, keep talking about. This is a 0 story for me. I'm sorry. I'll be right back.
I don't have much to talk about by myself, but I guess while Otto's not here, yeah, the story's not good. The gameplay is though. So if all you care about is Fire Emblem gameplay, which is what we've said in the past, you can play this game and tune out the story. The story is not good. It's very generic, and yeah. Again, for me, the game is like a 7 to 7.5. I can't give it an 8 because the gameplay is amazing. The gameplay is probably 10 out of 10 as far as Fire Emblem goes, but basically everything else. The Somniel is terrible. The story is terrible. The characters are terrible. Some of the UI things that we talked about last week, those are just weird and don't make sense to me. So yeah, the game is kind of meh in my opinion. The gameplay carries it. Gameplay carries it hard. And keeps it from being like a 6 or a 5, but it's yeah, it's not good in terms of the story. It's really disappointing after 3 houses. And I'm not sure how much else I have to say without Otto being here, because I'd like to have someone to bounce the conversation off of. But yeah, if, as I said, all you care about is fun Fire Emblem gameplay with interesting units to use, not interesting characters in terms of characterization and conversations, and cool like emblem ring powers, then this is for you. But if you want a good story, yeah, this game ain't it. If your first game in the series was 3 houses and you're expecting that level of story and character writing, you came to the wrong place with Engage, because it is rough in terms of almost everything else except the pure gameplay. Mini games and the Somniel is boring and terrible. And strangely enough, I've seen some YouTube commentary about some reviews of the game that said that they actually liked the Somniel in compared to the Monastery because it was either not required or you didn't spend as much time there, or yeah, and things like that. And I just like wholeheartedly disagree. Yes, you spent a lot of time in the Monastery and 3 houses, but at least it was interesting. The activities were mostly menus, and the few mini games that were there were very simple. and it was actually fun and interesting to walk around the monastery and talk to people and learn learn about the characters. Saying the story to Engage is better than Three Houses is about the most brain dead take. I like that is like opinion can be opinion, but holy moly, you like a very different type of story if you think Engage has a better story than Three Houses, because
Okay.
that is offensive.
I apologize. I did need to take that call. So,
Yeah.
Okay. I've seen people say the story Engage is better than Three Houses. So maybe. Who said that? Who said that?
I mean, Reddit is a dangerous place. The
Oh,
Fire
get
Emblem
the fuck
subreddit.
out of here. Shut up. Who said this? This is that much better than Three Houses. Three Houses has an intriguing story and great characters and an amazing design related to all that. And it was so interesting. Whereas Engage is so cliche and boring. I love it. I don't know. Some people like that stuff though. Some people like
Yeah.
the more cliched, like we'll call it the anime story.
Some people, yeah, some people like the simple story, and
Sure.
they don't want to dive into the deep like characters and world building
Yeah,
of
sure.
Three Houses. Saying I could see someone saying I prefer Engage's style of storytelling to
Yeah.
Three Houses, but saying Engage has a better story than Three Houses, that is wrong.
No,
I'm
that's wrong.
sorry, that is just
No, it's wrong.
wrong.
No, it's wrong.
Like,
No, it's completely wrong. And the answer is time travel. Whenever you introduce time travel, you immediately are ruining your story. You don't need time travel. Here's the thing. They could have legitimized that whole argument of like Alir changing his or her um like I guess
outlook,
alignment
yeah.
alignment to be aligned with the Fell Dragon. You could have legitimized anything for that. You didn't need time travel. You could have had a situation. What about a situation where the Fell Dragon slaughters a village of like women and children? Nobody's fighting. And like before, it was like they're all fighting. It's like a war, so they're all fighting each other. You're fighting, you're fighting against other soldiers. And Alir might have legitimized that because it's an act, it's war. But then you go to a village and it's completely unarmed, and Alir is like, okay, let's just move on. We got to take over the towns. And the Fell Dragon goes, no, we have to make an example of them.
Yep.
And he slaughters them. And Alir starts to question her alignment because Alir's thinking, wow, this is not, everybody has that. There's like those moments in like, particularly in media where they do this. Where like, wow, like this is really what war looks like. Like this is what war looks like. And the Fell Dragon's like, get used to it, little pup, because this is what war is.
It could have just been like Vale, because Vale, the normal Vale is not evil. Like she's a cute, nice little girl who like just wants friends, and most of the game, her thing is like she's looking for her brother or sister who is Alir.
Who's Alir? Yeah, it's obvious. It's so fucking obvious it's Alir.
And it could have been just like it was Vale and like him or her caring for Vale that changed his outlook, as opposed to time travel.
You don't need time travel.
Like that's completely again, I haven't seen that chapter yet, so I don't know the full context, but what I explained to you is what I understand of it.
Right. And and that's two better narrative choices to me than using time travel. And that's the problem. I have a problem with time travel, is because you can use better narrative devices than time travel. You just can. Time travel is only good when your entire story is built around it. I hate to bring Chrono Trigger up again, but Chrono Trigger's whole story was built around time travel. And time travel was a medium used to get more data about the final enemy. That was it. You were just getting data on like, how did Lavos get to this world? Like, how did he get here? You got more information on some of the characters like Magus. And like, that was what time travel was used for a lot of times, was to compile information and data to bring back to your time period to stop Lavos, or to stop Lavos. That was what it was used for. It was not used for poopy doo-doo shit arguments to be like, oh, well, the version of me came back and we had a conversation one-on-one, and now I've changed my heart. It's like, no, it's used for development of characters, like the frog character. You figure out, why did the character turn into a frog? Like, what was the reason for that? Why does he not like Magus? Why is Magus in this world? Where, like, all that is data, and it was built around time travel because you get more character development from that. You notice how much more interesting that is than being like, no, I came back to the past to talk to myself to change my mind. That's not interesting. It's not. There's nothing there. You could have used any other device that we just talked about, and it would have been better. And that's my problem with time travel. You don't need it.
Yeah.
It's an excuse.
When it's shooting at the end, it's terrible.
Yes, and that's what people do. They're like, oh, we don't have a way for her to change her mind, his or her mind. Let's just use time travel. A version of themselves goes back, and it's just like, oh, that's it. It's an excuse. It's a crutch. It's a crutch. That's a better way to say it. It's a crutch. It's a crutch, and I don't like it. And I think that for that reason, whenever I see it, it's a 0. That's why. Because there are like very few things that use time travel correctly. And Chrono Trigger is my like one that I think uses it perfectly. Because the entire thing is built around it. They probably started with, okay, we want to use time travel, but how do we do it? And that's like, that's how you do it, is like you start the conversation there. Here's what I'm guessing happened. They got to the end of the road, and they're like, well, shit, how does she change? How does Lear change their mind? Fuck it. We go back in time. And they like introduced the time crystal. So I get that was introduced. But the time crystal for me works better as a like, no, it's actually for combat. You rewind time in combat. It's a combat.
It's a gameplay device. Anytime they use it in the story, it doesn't make sense.
No, I hate it.
In chapter 10, when Vale's just like, I have the time crystal and I stole all your rings. How'd you steal all the rings? I literally had them out and they were on my finger right here. How'd you steal the rings? It didn't make sense.
It's not an invisibility cloak. They treat it like it's a fucking invisibility cloak, and it's not. It's like, even if they time traveled back, they would have had to time travel back like when Lumera was around, and like Lumera is like, oh god, I'm just like, woo, no, no.
The ring stealing thing, it happens again, by the way, later in the game, and it's not the time crystal. So what happens is, again, spoiler alert, this is chapter 20, I think.
Yeah.
Alear dies protecting Vale.
Yeah,
Vale is like gonna get blasted by the Fell Dragon, and Alear steps in front, blocks it, dies.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Fell Dragon's like, now I have all the rings, and he has all the rings, and I'm like, Alear didn't. First of all, you didn't even take them off me after you killed me. Second of all, Alear didn't have all the rings. Alear had one ring.
Yeah, I don't know.
How did you get the ring?
And that's another example of a narrative device that would have been better than time travel too. What if in the past, Vale did exist and they had this like really strong bond, and the Fell Dragon, maybe Vale was like, no, we can't slaughter these people, jumps in front of the people to save them from the Fell Dragon. That would change Alear's. See, we're coming up with better narrative devices and we're not even trying. Also, that's the ring stealing thing. Yeah, that's another thing. I don't like it. I hate it. It's fucking bullshit. Why'd you give me the rings? And like, I get it for the story, so I'm already kind of throwing that out there. For the story, having the Fell Dragon like flex its muscles and be like, I got your rings now. Somehow. And like, and the act of like using them against you is a good device. Because it's like, wow, these are actually really powerful. That being said, fuck you, game. I hate you. You gave me the rings and I felt like really good. Like, I don't feel that good because the Bond events with the rings are horrible. But,
oh yeah, they're not.
But I'm like, oh, you just took them away. You're like, okay, now we just take it away. And here's two other rings.
And Roy and Leaf you had for like 2 chapters, and then they just take them away.
They're just like, and I'm like, okay, like I get it. Like for your story, it's like pretty scary to see them used against you. But like, come on, really?
I like it actually as a gameplay device too, because they want to like they take away the old ones and then they want to introduce the new rings and get you used to the new rings.
Right. I know. Yeah,
and then you're gonna get back the old rings and you're gonna be able to have all of them.
Right.
So like as a gameplay device, I actually like it a lot too. It's annoying at the time because you're like, man, I've just gotten used to like using all these rings
Right.
and they take them all away from you.
Right.
So
And I like, again, I'm not a, you know, I'm annoyed by it, but I get it. I get why they do it too for the story. But I don't like it. I'm like,
Yeah.
really? It's like,
Yeah.
it's a tease to me. It's like, okay, fine. Like, I get it. You flexed your muscles. We got it.
Yeah, and then Alir gets revived in twice in the span of 2 chapters.
Yeah,
in chapters 20 and 21.
Yeah, I don't care.
So.
That's the thing, is I don't care. That's the beauty of this, is when you stop caring, everything's amazing. That's the thing. It's going to be amazing now when I play it on my stream.
And you're just going to skip the story.
And like, oh my god, how amazing! So cool! And then everyone's going to be like, really? Do you think I was cool? I'm like, no, I just don't care. I just don't care. But
also,
I like gameplay.
I will warn you in terms of the gameplay. Make sure your team is fully outfitted and decked out for Chapter 17, because Chapter 17 is a huge difficulty spike. Just that one chapter. The next chapter is really easy, but Chapter 17 is really difficult.
Yeah, I do a lot of skirmishes, so I feel like my team is a little bit over-leveled right now. But yeah, I mean, I do skirmishes, like, especially off my stream. I do all this stuff. I don't just, like, skip paralogs and things like that. I do fight skirmishes, and, like, I do my push-ups, okay?
Yeah, I do the push-ups.
Anyway. But yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for me, this game is overall gameplay is 10 out of 10.
Absolutely, I'm with you.
For Fire Emblem gameplay, it's 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is like a 5 or less.
Oh yeah.
So the game for me, like on the whole, is like a 7. It's a 7.
That's literally what I was gonna say. I'm not even joking with you.
It's a 7.
It's a 7. I'm not kidding. I would have said the max is 7.5.
And apparently this game, as far as Fire Emblem games go, has one of the lowest metascores. A lot of the metascores for Fire Emblem are like 85 and above. This one has like an 80. 80, I think. It's a low 80s.
Yep.
And I've heard people saying the metascore's too low. Like, this game's way better than that. I'm like, no, it's not. The metascore should be 75. This game is like, the gameplay is amazing, but everything else is garbage.
No,
like,
the metascore's correct.
Sucks.
This is a correct metascore. Probably should be lower, but like, I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt and say 80's correct.
I don't see how you give this game a 10. Like,
no, I don't.
Or even a 9. I'm like, how do you give this game a 9 or a 10? I don't understand. It has too many issues. Like,
yeah, no, this
I'm
game,
sorry, the gameplay is amazing, yes, but gameplay is not the only part of an RPG. This is an RPG. Like, you need a good story. You need good characters to be a 9 or a 10 in the RPG genre. I'm sorry, you just do. Like,
absolutely. Keep going. Give me 1 second. I'm just gonna. My wife just walked in. Give me a sec.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't see how this game is. For me, I was gonna say the same thing as you. I'm a little bit surprised. I felt like you might have given this game more of a benefit of the doubt.
No. I love the game. Like, the game is addictive, and I love playing the game. It's a lot of fun.
Right.
But again, I play a lot of RPGs, and I play a lot of RPGs with good stories, good characters, and good world building, and this game is a joke compared to that.
Yeah.
And again, everything else that we've talked about last week and this week, the thumbnail is terrible. It's
horrible.
Boring. It's awful. The mini games are terrible, and there are parts of the UI that are just like oversights. It just doesn't make any sense. By the way, the economy in this game sucks ass too. They give you lump sums of gold every like 4 or 5 chapters, and it's just annoying. Like,
I'm poor. I'm so poor, and I'm like,
you never know what to. By the way, donations. It's a trap. Don't go higher than like level 2 or something like that.
I'm done donating. It's worthless to me. Unless I want more oranges.
There are certain milestones that give you like more ore, the upgrade materials.
Right.
Those are kind of worth getting, but also like Brodia isn't worth really donating to at all, because there's like 2 or 3 maps in all of Brodia, maybe 4. There's 2 paralogs in Brodia, and then there's like 2 or 3 other maps that are in Brodia. So Brodia is so small compared to the other ones.
Yeah.
And like donating is like a noob trap. You should save your money for buying. Well, you don't need to buy that many weapons once you have a good weapon on everyone, but you should save your money for like weapon upgrading, and later in the game the flea market opens up, which allows you to buy the upgrade materials from the flea market.
Perfect.
So like, save your money for that.
Yeah. No,
like, donating's a big trap, to be honest.
The economy in this game is horrible. I've
been
poor for like 5 chapters and I'm pissed.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what's the point? you spend all your money and you're stuck for 5 chapters. Like, and the game even is true. Like, you can't go back to the Somniel between chapters. Like, who cares? What am I supposed to do? Do push-ups? Like, I don't care. Like, this game is like, it's weird. It feels like they spent 99% of the time on the combat section, and you can tell. Everything else, it feels like they spent like 30 minutes at a time, and I'm like the in Three Houses, that cathedral area,
the
monastery. Thank you. Sorry, not cathedral. Monastery is crafted well. Like, it's clearly designed in a certain way to get you to stay there a certain period and utilize it to the best of your ability. The Somniel is crafted to waste your time. That's the difference.
And I've heard a couple of different. I've watched some like later reviews from like Fire Emblem YouTubers. One of them was a review, one of them was just like a thoughts thing.
Yeah.
But like they say they like the Somniel. They're like it doesn't take that long. It's not like the monastery. I don't spend that much time there. I just do my things and get out. Or one of them said like, I just didn't do it at all. I just like skipped it for.
Yeah, because you were on easy. You played on easy.
No, he played on hard.
Oh, he just didn't utilize it? Okay.
Yeah, he's just like, I just didn't use it. Like, he's like, I didn't feel like I had to use it, so I didn't use it. So I mean, fine, but that doesn't
change the fact that it's problematic.
But like, that doesn't make it good. It doesn't make it good. If you're choosing to skip it, that means it's bad.
That means you don't value it. You're skipping it. You don't value it.
It's that if you're choosing to skip it, then you should it shouldn't be there at all if you're choosing to skip it.
No, I'm with you. The Somniel, if you're not utilizing it, you're like, I just skip it. Well, then you don't value it because you're skipping it. That's the point. Like, the Somniel is free points. Like, it's free points when you use it. You get bonuses to your stats for your next, chapter, your next mission. You get materials. You can increase the value of your weapons and things like that. Like, why wouldn't you use it?
You inherit skills.
Yeah, you can even get experience in that like arena for a little bit. Why wouldn't you use it? It's supposed to be used if you're trying to optimize your game. I'm gonna say you're playing optimally, quote unquote, because you're trying to push your stats to the max before the next chapter.
If you're playing optimally, you're spending like an hour in the Somniel between each chapter, which is way too long.
I spend about 20 minutes because maybe 20 minutes. I don't remember how long. It might be less. I don't remember. But you spend time. I mean, I can't buy anything because I'm poor, but outside of that, you're trying to optimize your characters when they're stat. So like when somebody says they're skipping it, I'm like, okay, well, you're not optimizing, so you must not value the optimized like stat boosts that you're getting from this. And they're like, I don't mind it. It's like, well, you didn't use it. What do you mean you didn't mind it? You didn't use it. That's like me saying in Dead Space, oh, I didn't mind the force gun and didn't use it. It's like, well, of course you didn't use it, so how could you have an opinion? That makes no sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I've heard the take that people like the Somniel because they don't have to spend as much time there as the monastery, basically. But to me, like, the monastery was enjoyable. It was fun to talk to people and like learn there was actually stuff to be done in the monastery that wasn't busy work. You talk to it was fun to go around and talk to every NPC in the monastery and like learn about the characters and how they were reacting to what was going on in the world.
Because they give good reactions to what's happening in the world. They do. They react to every mission appropriately. I find that whenever they react in this game, they're like, great job, Divine Dragon. You really slaughtered those people. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Nobody's like, wow, what a tense moment. Did you see the face on Diamant? They're just like, good job, Divine Dragon. You're getting stronger every day. It's like, fuck me, dude.
As we've talked about before, for the vast majority, the support conversations are complete ass.
No, they're terrible. Like, they're terrible except for a few.
There's a few. There's maybe like between 5 and 10 that I've watched that I was like, yeah, all right, that was decent. That was a fine support conversation. The rest, I'm just like, yeah, this is boring.
Yep.
I skipped yesterday. I got a support conversation. These characters you don't have yet, but between 2 characters you get in Psalm because randomly a character that I was using fought in the arena a character that I wasn't using, so I got their C support.
Yeah.
And it was near the end of like me getting through the Somnia there. I clicked the support and I was like, you know what? I don't care. I just skipped it. I was like, yeah, I don't want to. I don't care. I don't want to watch this. Like,
yeah. No, I'm with you. I skip a lot of things. I like just don't pay attention anymore, or I just skip it. I just it's not good. It's just not good. It's like eating potato chips. It's not good. It's
Yeah.
just filling, I guess, but it's not good. Um, no,
So yeah,
I'm with you. This
this
is a
game,
7.
this game's a 7. It
I'm
is.
I'm gonna coin a new review for this for these types of games. I'd buy it for $20. That's about it. For my games now. This one probably doesn't hit that tier of the I'd buy it for
No,
$20 tier.
I don't regret my $60
Right,
purchase of this game because I've had a lot of fun with it. The game is very fun to play and very addictive.
right.
But on a more like objective, well, it's still subjective because it's my opinion,
Yes.
but on a more like thinking about the game on like what I like about it and what I don't like about it, I literally only like the gameplay, and that carries the game super hard to a 7. If the gameplay wasn't as good as it was, this game would be like a 5 or a 6 probably, because everything else in the game is pretty much ass.
There's 3 things I like, including the gameplay's one of them, obviously. The presentation and like the
Oh yeah,
cutscenes, the
sorry,
visuals.
yeah, you're right.
There's that. That is
Visual
outstanding. Once
the
the
presentation,
best.
yeah, the presentation's really good. The graphics, the sound, the
Correct.
animations,
Right.
the voice act. The script is terrible, but the
Or
voice
the voice
acting
acting's good.
is actually very good.
It's good.
The script is awful, but this voice
Yes.
acting is good.
Yes. No. That was 2. There's number
Yeah.
3. Number 3. The little pet in the Somnial. The little cat
Oh,
pet thing.
Sami,
That's the third best thing
yeah.
I've ever seen. That's the third best thing in this whole game, and I hope we get more of that thing because it trains with you, and it's so happy, and it's just training with you. It's the reason why I can bother with push-ups anymore. That little cat thing joining you on the push-ups, it makes it tolerable because I love it. I love that little thing. That's the
I,
third
I
thing I like.
I put sunglasses on it. I've had
That's
sunglasses on it the whole
everybody
game.
does. It's
Yeah,
amazing. Looks
that's
so
the
cool.
meta. Is the
Looks so
sunglasses on
cool
Sami.
on some. It's perfect. So that's the 3 things I like. Everything else I don't like. Everything else. So I'm with you. It's a 7. This is like a. It's not 20. It's not. I don't buy this for $20 tier. That's my like one of my lower tiers. I don't regret the $60 purchase, but it's a 7. But it's not Gotham Knights. I'd buy it for $20 tier. Kind of thing, right?
This is a game you just like need to know what you're getting
Right.
going in. You're getting a really fun Fire Emblem game, but don't really expect anything else except fun Fire Emblem combat because
Correct.
everything else is just
And
ass,
the people that
just
think the
bad.
story is better than Three Houses, look, you're entitled to your opinion, and I'll respect your opinion to a certain degree. But you cannot tell me that these characters are better. You can't tell me that this cast of characters is better than the Fire Emblem character. You
Yeah,
can't tell me that when you get to the end of the game, all the contrived time travel stuff is better than what they crafted in Three Houses until you to a certain point. And I think maybe a lot of people are like that because they felt like they maybe just did the Black Eagles route kind of
yeah.
thing or the Blue Lions, and they kind of got that hard stop in the story, and they're like, "What was that?" But like, I will tell you, the Golden Deer route was a full, flushed out story experience for me, and that is what I'm thinking about. Like, I didn't do Blue
I mean,
Lions because I'd heard
e-
about Blue Lions and Black Eagles.
I only played Black Eagles, and even and yes, the ending of Black Eagles is somewhat disappointing
Right,
because, as I've told you, they talk about in Black Eagles, they're like, hey, there's this other group, those who slither in the dark.
right.
They're the real bad guys, but we have to deal with the church first. We'll deal with the church because they suck. I'm like, yeah, cool. We'll deal with them
We'll deal with
after.
them.
And then
Right,
you beat whatever. I think it's chapter 8. I want to say chapter 18 is the last chapter in
right.
Black Eagles, and you kill Dragon Rhea.
Yeah,
And that's the end. I'm
and that's
like,
the end.
but what happened to dealing with the other guys?
Right, and
Like,
Golden Deer do that. The Golden Deer do that in their route. They
but
they
but I
defeat
don't.
Edelgard, and then they go fight those who slither in the
So
dark. And I'm like, okay, well that makes sense. But then I
but
heard the other routes, and I'm
I
like,
don't understand why they didn't just slap the like last 3 or 4 chapters from the Golden Deer onto the end of Black Eagles. Like I don't understand.
I don't know. But the Golden Deer route did that. They beat Edelgard. Edelgard tells you about those who slither in the dark, and you go, oh, we should kill them too, and you just go do
Yeah.
it. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like, sure, why not? So no, you cannot sit down and tell me that that entire storyline and that experience and all the various cogs in that wheel, particularly with the crests, how the crests worked and the relationship of the crests with the nobility and with the commoners and all the political intrigue in that game. You can't tell me that's not more interesting than Engage's great job, Divine Dragon, you're the best. Good thing you slaughtered those people. It's like, you can't tell me that. You can't tell me that with a straight face and feel like, okay, no, Engage is better. Like, you can feel that way, but
again,
it's hard for me to justify.
I'm perfectly okay with the opinion that, hey, I just like Engage's story better because it's simpler and I just don't really... To me, those people are people who kind of just play Fire Emblem and don't play other RPGs very much because they just don't care about the story that much and they just want a simple, easy to digest story.
Right.
I can understand the sentiment that you like Engage's style of storytelling better, but saying that Engage's story is better than than Three Houses is wrong in my opinion. Three Houses is a much better story, characters, world, like everything, than Engage. Like, you can like Engage better in terms of the story, but saying that it has a better story than Three Houses is incorrect in my opinion.
No, that's why, and that's why, like, look, like, you can't tell me that Engage has a better story or a better, just a general better narrative. Like, I can't, I'll let you have your opinion, but I can't necessarily agree with it and feel like, okay, you're right. I'm like, no, this is not right. Like, you can keep that, but no, that's not right. This is a 7 for me. There are things that I do like, with the presentation and with the actual game, the combat sequence, everything else is boring or bad. I have no interest in the story at this point, given even what you told me, but I didn't before, so don't feel bad. I didn't care.
Well, you didn't. You cared so little, you didn't mind me spoiling the entire story.
Exactly, because I don't. Because I'm like, there's nothing in this that's going to improve. Nothing. I didn't think there's going to improve.
This isn't really like anything extra about the story, but like when Alir dies in chapter 20, all like your party members who are there watching, like, what are we gonna do? The Divine Dragon died. We're doomed. We can't do anything now. It's like, you're pretty strong on your own. Like, I know, they can't use the rings anymore because they need Alir to summon the emblems. But like, it's not like you're completely useless without him.
What would have been super interesting? If they let Alir die, and you have to do a chapter without Alir.
At least for a few, like 1 or 2 chapters, you have to play a chapter without Alir.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been super interesting? To be like, Alir's dead. You're like this is like that low point. You get about 75% through something. You hit just complete... The rock bottom in this game is halfway through it, which I'm not sure I agree with doing that. But usually it's like you hit rock bottom about 75%, and then the last 20x% is like the rising up to the challenge. In this, they do it like 50% of the way through the game, which I'm like, okay.
It's less than that.
It's less than... Well, that's worse.
Yeah, there's 26 chapters, and you've probably not done any of the ring. Yeah, you haven't done any of the ring paralogs yet.
No.
So there's there's one for every ring.
Can I say a third?
Yeah, it's probably a third to 40%. Yeah.
Fine. 33% of the game, your team hits rock bottom.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. Because they hit rock bottom again, because Alir dies. So you hit rock bottom 2 to 3 times?
Yeah, but then they resolve, like, there's a couple of instances at the end, like at chapter after 19, I think it's either 18 or 19.
Right.
Like, they, the bad guy finally, he figures out, he's like, Alir is Fell Dragon's kid, and he tells Alir that he's the Fell Dragon's kid, and Alir has like a little bit of a moment like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm...
of course.
And then, like, it's resolved in the same cutscene. Like, Sigurd, like, all your friends are just like, yeah, but you've been helping us the whole time. And Sigurd comes down and is like, no, but Lumera infused it with divine dragon power. It's fine. You're a good guy. And, like, within 5 minutes, the conflict is resolved and everything's fine again. It's like,
wouldn't it have been interesting if a whole chapter was about that? I was like,
yeah,
you're coming to terms with being, like, quote unquote, the Darth Vader effect. Like, Luke has to come to terms with he's a child of evil. He's a descendant of an evil lineage. It's the same thing. Like, and guess what? Luke doesn't just resolve that right away. He has to come to terms with that over and like he loses his hand and everything. Like he has to come to terms with that, and like that's where the final movie, which he comes to terms with it and accepts it, and he's now his goal is trying to bring his father back into the light, which is a great narrative, by the way. I wish to Christ this game would have that. That could have been a whole chapter with like Alir, maybe through the whole combat, questioning, self-doubting. That could have been a whole chapter. Man, wouldn't that have been interesting? Nah. Let's finish it in 3 minutes. Let's resolve it in 3 minutes.
In the same, we'll resolve this conflict in the same cutscene.
Give me a fucking break. Like, that's a joke. There is no way you can tell me that's like good narrative devices. And you can't. It's hard to see like a situation where I could play something and you hit rock bottom a lot. And I guess for me, a lot is like 3 times. If your character hits rock bottom like 3 times in a game, that's not good storytelling. Like, that's too much. Even in Dragon Age Inquisition, a game where I don't think the story is good at all, you hit rock bottom like once. You get one instance of rock bottom, and they spend like a whole cutscene doing like this song to try and build up the hope in the community after everything's been lost. There's a whole sequence to try and get that back. It's a whole sequence. Like, the entire thing is like, it is this rising moment of like, all hope is lost. We have to take this long walk through a snowstorm. We're at rock bottom, and we get around the campfire, and like they have to like bring hope back.
Yeah,
that's like a whole sequence. And look, the game, Corypheus is a dumb fucking villain, and the whole game story isn't great. But guess what? That's a good narrative device, because it's like a moment of like, okay, like look, this is horrible, and like we have to find our way back in the worst of circumstances. To hear that it gets resolved in a 5-minute cutscene, when you figure it out and then you resolve it in the same cutscene, yeah, that pisses me off. That's not good storytelling.
Like, by the way, the villains in this game are terrible too.
Yeah, of course they are.
Like,
why would they be good?
Like I still like Zephyr and Gris, two of the 4 hounds. I still don't know what their motivation is. Like why they follow the Fell Dragon.
I don't know. Gur, Arg.
And yeah, and before we learned the one of them that has died so far from me, like we learned her motivation like right before she died. Basically, we had an exposition cutscene where she tells us her sad backstory, and then in the next cutscene she sacrifices herself and dies. So
okay,
there you go.
Cool.
Like
cool, cool, dude. I don't know. I think that like when you do stuff like that where you hit rock bottom, like the first time you do your retreat, that's actually pretty good because it's a whole quest.
I mean,
a whole chapter
there are parts of that section like them stealing the rings that I was like, that didn't make any sense. And you guys actually, the party getting out of the cathedral, like they were surrounded on all sides and they didn't have the rings, and they just like, it just fades to black and you're out in the forest. It's like, wait, but how did we get past the hounds who were behind us? Like
they threw a smoke bomb and like Batman just kind of floated away. I don't know. But that chapter being a retreat chapter,
yeah, narratively
speaking, that was good. I just don't like the retreat chapter game, things.
Gameplay.
I just don't like it. I mean, like it's just not my favorite because it's meant to kick your ass if you make small mistakes, and you don't have the time crystal at first.
Yeah, you can't.
So you're like, oh well, fuck me. I mean, we've definitely beaten this game down with its narrative, but
yeah,
I just can't help but think there are worse games with worse narratives that somehow look better by comparison to this now. Like Inquisition looks like somebody actually crafted a tuned out story. And I'm looking at Engage and I'm like, wow, this is bad. And I look at Inquisition, I'm like, I guess you weren't as bad as I thought, huh? And I'm like,
mean, yeah, I heard the theory that for this game they like basically they made the game and then they like just slapped a story on top of it because like they just wanted to make a fun Fire Emblem game and they just like slapped a generic ass story on top of it because like
you do know you can make a fun Fire Emblem game with a decent story though, right?
Yeah,
like you can do that.
We can have both.
We can have both.
Like if three houses had Engage's gameplay, and presentation, that would be like a 10 out of 10. Like,
Yeah, like it looks like War and Peace compared to this. I mean, really, like, no, Dragon Age Inquisition is not a good story, but like compared to this, I'm like, wow, this is pretty good. This looks great.
yeah.
This story is. That's why I don't get people on Reddit being like, this is a good story. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
What
no,
do you
I
mean?
like I
What?
thought this was just gonna
You
be
sure?
kind of like a generic collect the MacGuffins and defeat the bad guy story, which it
It
is.
is.
But the writing is real, like the
It's really
script,
bad.
especially in the early game, is really, really bad. It leaves a
Yeah.
really bad first impression.
Yeah.
And all the avatar worship is terrible.
Yep.
Their twists are super predictable, and they throw in like time travel and these like drawn out terrible death scenes. Yeah, apparently Lumera, like they resurrect Lumera for you to fight against her again in the late game. Again, I haven't gotten to this chapter yet, but I'm sure it's coming up because I only have 4 left. And then there's another drawn out death scene with her, like when you kill her again. So, like, it's just, yeah, the writing is
Bad.
just really bad. So
Yeah, it's bad.
it's worse than just generic like 12 collect the MacGuffins and defeat the bad guy story.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's horrible. I mean, like, there are more MacGuffin stories out there too. Dragon Age Origins is a MacGuffin story at the start. You have to go get agreements. You have to make people sign contracts with you, basically. And you go to various different factions and say, hey, will you join my cause? But that story's more interesting too, because there's some political intrigue bullshit going on.
there's a lot of political intrigue in that
like,
game.
The final boss is a dragon, but that's not really what's going on. The narrative is more geared towards like infighting in a point of desperation and war, and people trying to take power at an opportune moment. That is still more interesting than this. And like, I don't even think Dragon Age Origins story is like spectacular, but like I look at it now compared to this and I'm like, wow, this is great. Can you imagine playing a game like Mass Effect right now? Which, by the way, I did play it. Again, recently just for fun. I don't know. And I look at Mass Effect, and I look at all the characters, and then I look at Fire Emblem, and I go back to Mass Effect, and I'm like, wow. Isn't it nice to give a shit about a character? Isn't it nice when you have to make a decision to kill one off? You actually think about it for a second and go, huh. Well, I like Caden, and I like Ash. Ashley's got her problems. Like, in the game, like, she kind of comes off as racist against aliens. Caden comes off as kind of, he's like had to deal with a lot of like, not tragedy, but he's had to overcome a lot in his childhood and his upbringing in his like biotics teachings and all that. Like, I'm like, man, like, okay, but like Ashley's still like, she's a character that I've come to have conversations with, and she's got a family, and it's like, man, she got a family, she's got sisters, she sticks up for them, they're like a close family. Yeah, Caden, like, we meme on it, but like, I'm like, man, it's kind of a tough choice. Like, I care about both of them.
Yep.
I come to Engage, and I'm like, if I got that, if they were like, would you sacrifice Alchrist or Diamant? That's a good example. It's like they're both in the same area. Which one do you sacrifice? I go, fuck it, flip a coin. Who cares? It doesn't matter. That's how I feel. I play a game like Mass Effect, and I'm like, man, I actually have to think about this. Who do I send to do what? Like, who should I, I want to go on these character quests to learn more about them. Like, I want to help Jacob get through his like crazy father's like situation where he's like taken control after like a crash landing in a, oh god, what's the book, Lord of the Flies situation. Yeah, I'm like, man, Jacob, holy shit, like, you got to be going through a lot. Like, do you need anything? Are you okay? And then I look over at this game, and all I get is, wow, Divine Dragon, you really slaughtered those people. Good job. And I'm like, fuck this. Fuck this. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. I got Mordin on my left singing songs and talking to me, and him questioning his own work on the Genophage, which leads to the events of Mass Effect 3, which, whatever. He questions his own work. He's like, well, at the time I know I had to do it, but now I'm questioning my motives. I question my motivation into 3. Like, he has a change of heart. That's interesting. Like, he realizes his mistake, so he wants to rectify it. He made a mistake, and so he sacrifices himself. That's interesting.
Yep.
Fram, what do you got? I'm president of the fan club of Alir, the Divine Dragon. Like, fuck me. God. Like, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at right now, and that's why I think Fire Emblem. This is one of the worst stories I think I've ever had the displeasure of experiencing, because I'm constantly looking at other games that like do things right, and I'm like, why couldn't you have just done something like this? Like, what stopped you?
Fates is worse.
Fates
in the
is
story. Fates is worse, 100% in the story
Look,
department.
Fates is bad. I agree with you, but this is also bad. I think we can agree.
This is bad, but this makes sense. Fates doesn't make sense.
This is so bad. This is so bad because I'm
bad.
constantly looking at other games. And I'm like, this is
in Fates Conquest especially. You just go along with genocide for 25 chapters.
You do. I agree, and it's fucked.
Until you just go decide that, oh, actually, we should probably kill Garen because he's evil.
Yeah, no,
like,
I'm with you. It's stupid.
Fates is worse. Fates is 100%
stupid.
worse because it doesn't make sense.
But my point is, like, you look at this game compared to so many games. Like, Mass Effect is not a new game. You know, you look at other games that actually like make sense cohesively, and like actually have characters you should care about, and you're just like, come on, like, you couldn't have told me it would be hard to write these characters in a different way.
I'm not telling you that Engage's story is good. Right. I'm saying it's better than Fates, because Fates, in my opinion, has one of the worst stories in any game I've played ever.
Right.
The story in that game is like, that is my least favorite Fire Emblem game by a long shot. Like, that game is like, at best, I'd give it a 6, but probably it's like a 4 or a 5. I dislike that game. I dislike it. It's kind of like me with like Kingdom Hearts and Dream Drop Distance. Like, I just dislike that game.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's just
no,
bad.
I get it.
Like,
I get it. I get it. Yeah. Anyway,
this game, again, at least it's fun, and the story, like, it's bad. The writing's bad, but at least it makes sense. Fates' story is just, ugh, God,
but
the worst.
I don't know. We've talked about Fire Emblem for a while. We already gave our verdict on it. I think it's just the biggest frustration is for me is A, the time travel stuff you told me about obviously is a frustration, because it's like, that shouldn't be in here. There's no reason for it. But B, like, I'm like playing other games, and I see these other games and what they're doing with their characters, and it just frustrates me, because I'm like, man, it wouldn't have been that hard to do that for this game, so why didn't you? Like, I feel like you could have done that. Like, you clearly, like, 3 Houses proved you can, so you can, but like, you know, you can still have a generic story with decent characters. You can still have that. Yeah. You can have that. It's possible 100%, and I know you can, and I know there's a universe where you can talk through a character's like history, you know, a la Dragon Age Origins with Morgan, who's like a child of like this incredibly powerful creature known as Flemeth. And Flemeth actually raised Morgan to just consume her body. And you talk through that, and it's just like this whole crazy situation. You could have had that. Like, that's interesting. Or I guess we can have the Divine Dragon fan club.
Yep, we have the Divine Dragon fan
But we have
club.
this. So anyway, I don't have anything else to say. I'm like so disappointed in this story, which, I mean, like, we knew coming into this story would be generic.
Yeah, I mean, in the previews, like the first trailer, like when we talked about it, we're like, man, this story does not sound good.
Yeah.
Like, you were worried every time we talked about it in the thing. You're like, man, this story does not sound good.
It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. It looks very generic. I'm concerned about, ooh, look, bad dragon narrative. And I think that all that's coming true, but it's somehow worse.
Yeah,
it's somehow worse.
The writing is just way worse than I was expecting. Like, the story is generic, and then the writing is just bad on top of it. It's just like, and the character. I thought we would at least get some decent supports out of it, and most of the supports are just horrible.
Nope, they're bad.
They're just awful.
They play out the same way. Anyway,
like after you've had your 5th conversation with Celine about tea, you're like, yeah, I don't want to listen to you talk.
Yeah,
anymore.
you skip it. You're like, okay, I'm done. Thank you.
Like,
yeah, I'm
yeah.
done. He's like, okay, I'm done. So, all right, I have nothing else to say.
Yep.
And I think we should close out.